Good to see all you guys in the audience. Yes, I have been involved in the industry for over 26 years now. Started my life in-house lawyer at Citibank all those many, many years ago in 1990. I've got a great panel tonight, and we're going to be speaking about one of my pet topics, which is how we deal with data, data security, how we treat personal data, and we're looking at things like data mining and how we come up with single customer view. These things are very, very topical at the moment. Lots of data breaches going on, questions about Swift. And we've got a great panel of three guys. Between the four of us, in fact, we have over 100 years payment experience. Bit scary, bit scary. So first of all, I'd like to introduce on stage Mohammed Rushdie, who's CIO Technology Advisor at Bank Al Balid. He's had many, many years of experience in a number of banks in the CIO role and now advising at a board level. Thank you. Our next speaker coming on stage is Abdul Salem Aloui. He's Manager and Director of HPS. And again, a guy that's had over 25 years experience in the industry. And we've had a great discussion backstage. Thank you very much. And our third and final, but by no means least, is Suresh Ragag Oplan. I should have learnt to pronounce his surname before he came on stage. Apologies, Suresh. Again, another accomplished professional in the team of R&D. He's based in Chennai. His company works and runs the major payment gateways out there, as well as providing technology infrastructure. So as you can see, we've got a great panel on stage, and hopefully we're going to get some good questions from you guys in the audience as well, so I won't do all the speaking, much that I like the sound of my own voice. I'm going to kick straight in with some of the topics I was discussing backstage with these guys, and I think the whole question of what's been going on data security, the Swift breaches we've had across the region recently are clearly something very, very topical. And maybe if we could start off with the CIO of a bank and how you feel. I know we're one short on mic, so we'll have to share a bit. Could you give us a bit of insight on your thoughts on this whole area of the Swift breaches and what you think might have contributed?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Actually, when we discussed the recent breaches in security, and mainly in the payment area, as many of us heard about the first time that a payment or a Swift network was able to be breached or hacked, and people were able to generate a Swift message, and some million of dollars were able to be transferred from one country to the other country. Though all of us know how much is secure Swift network itself. While we are discussing, we can see really, it might be surprising, we put lots of systems, firewalls, security, policies, and at end, such a big bank were able to hack, not only bank, maybe more than one. I would say really we have to go sometime back to basics. If we look at all of these kind of attacks which happened, we found that people using the Swift payment, you remember in any bank, you can see your Swift room is really locked by, maybe by a password, and then, lots of, procedure to enter into Swift room. But unfortunately, your systems are, you still have maybe internet access. You are able to surf the net from a Swift payment terminal. The hacker was able really to go and create a Swift message, although all of us know how difficult it is. It's not an easy thing to make a Swift message. So this, if let us say, go back to basics, put the Chinese wall and the processes in place that people which really use the payment are really well secured. They should be isolated from your major normal network. Why I have to give someone to surf the net from a Swift terminal? Why I have to let him, receive a malware, and this malware is able to get his, all his credentials and able to know that this guy is a Swift user. So it might be surprising you're putting all of these, but maybe a small hole or a small breach, you are leaving it from the basics. and then these basics are able, hackers are able to exploit and able to go into your system. So it's very important that we make sure that really we build the basics here. Let me give you something very quick. Data leakage protection in one of the banks, when we implemented, most of the senior management said, okay, Mohammed, can I have, because I need to use USB. And then you find that lots of people have the exception. So through these people, the attacks comes. In another attack as well, there was like a screen in a mobile banking, which is like they were using the default name. So the hacker will able you to get in. So it's very important that the security really is from a process. Technology is not enough. It's a process and people. So it's very, very important that we go back to basics and make sure that really we implement the real, security measures without, like convenience and, like security and securing our network is very important to look at. But I would say the message here, we have to make sure that we really implement security processes in place. Not only just having many systems, many firewalls, big names, but all of these, you still have, the basics you are not implementing. This is my point of view. Thank you.
This is what Rushdie was said, is most of the time, organizations focus on the attacks that would come from the outside, but we know most of the scandals, and there is a set in the past few weeks where the breach has come from the inside. So definitely, segregation of duty, differences of networks, making sure that nobody has access to all data at the same time, and at the end it's back to basics. We can see that most of the breaches have been so simple. It was so obvious that nobody have thought of it. And we need to go back to make sure that from the inside it is as much secured as from the outside.
We are a large payment processor as well as a product development company in Chennai. So if you looking at the the payment industry as such,
You just push it here.
hello, yeah. If you look at the the payment industry as such, there are certain security standards. So if you are developing a product, you want to make sure that they are PADSS compliant. So the basic security standards are built into your product when you develop these products. Similarly, if you are processing a large payment processing company, then you need to have a payment security standards again, like PCI DSS compliant. Now the PCI DSS also every year, based on the amount of threats we find and things like that, it keeps on revising the versions. Now today we are running PCI DSS 3.2 has come out. Many of the organizations still running the the old versions, which leaves the attackers to use and exploit those threats and things like that. So the industry as a whole finding some measures to arrest these threats. But it is also important for people who are processors, banks, financial institutions to quickly adopt and in quick succession, rather than waiting for a breach to happen and an attack to happen and then all of them waking up. So it is very important to sort of follow these standards, because these standards are well defined. Most of the time the implementation gets into a way. Somebody says that I'm a very senior most guys, give me a USB access. I mean, those are the things which we allow and then let that the process fail. So basically, I think it is the one, there is a need for overall industry-wide, because it is no more connected within only within your organization. Because the payment industry, there is an issuer, there is a merchant, there is an acquirer. So it goes through the entire life cycle. For one transaction, it goes through multiple touch points. So every touch point has to be protected, and it has to be secure, it has to be encrypted so that no man in the middle attack can happen. So it's very important aspect.
We were having a very interesting discussion on some of the sort of unicorns that have popped up in the payments world, one of which is Klarna. The interesting discussion then was on data analytics and how you pick your customers. They've deliberately sort of cut out the payment piece in merchant acquisition. So if someone goes online to buy something, instead of dropping out, they will allow them to purchase the item and then issue an invoice afterwards, and they will take the credit risk on that invoice. Now, they reckon that what they've done is websites have dropped from 50% drop-offs at point of sale to 3% where they've stepped in. That may be an exaggeration, but it's certainly a massive change. And Klarna are doing it without using any credit data. They just use data that they collect from social media. So it's data about how that person reacts to work out whether or not they're worth giving the credit to. And I had a good chat with Abdul Salim, who's been working with Klarna in time. Klarna, how does that work?
Yep. So Klarna is a very, as you said, a modern company, and as every modern and young, 20, 30 years ago, when a bank or when even us were looking at somebody and we wanted to know how solvable it is, we just look at his house, we just look at his car, maybe we know where he's staying. And today, when we want to know someone, we look at his Facebook profile, we look at his LinkedIn, and today, whenever I meet someone and I need to have information, I just go to the social media. This is what Klarna has done, and this is algorithms are just looking at the customer data that has been put into the network. Sorry, with the consent of the customer, and this data through sophisticated algorithms just give risk ratios, and decision can be made on the basis of those information. This is really very, very interesting one, and without getting back into credit, and we know how people can be reluctant to credit and people can get nervous about their credit score, while here it is really a little bit more easy to be done.
Thank you. And another area we're looking at, in Europe and the US, we've got a big push by the regulators to go for single customer view. So however many relationships you have with a customer, if you're a bank, you've got to have a single customer view. And the discussion we were having is, how do you do that when you've got legacy systems?
We talk about a term called data governance. Where is your data? Who owns this data? How you calculate or you come to a figure? Who will, give you this kind of stuff from your organization? The most important thing is that if you know where is your data, the technology is very easy today to pick up all your data. You can say a CRM, you can say, many technologies, like you can build it by your own. So getting to know where is your data, and the stewardship for your data is from a security point of view as well. Then you can get the single, the 360 customer degree. Surprising now, they have another term called 720 customer degree. And you might be surprised about it. Some vendors, they came with that, or some people come with the idea. You have the customer view 360, but the customer has a relationship in the bank, his company, his family, and so on. Then even you can get, like sometimes you call it 720 customer view. But the other, outcome, the best way, like later, was to get the single version of truth for the data. Now we talk about repository, you talk about data warehousing, you talk about big data because of the unstructured and social media, and this is the outcome which is the best, which is people when they bring all the data together in one platform. But just to get the 360 degree today without having this data warehouse in place, is just where is your data, who owns your data. It is very, very important. It's for getting the view as well as for the security point of view. In such a case, the technologies are there just to show it to you. You can call it CRM or any other systems. Thank you.
Suresh, we sort of rolled on from single customer view to how banks can sell additional products and things like that.
One is related to how do you target a particular customer. I think you talked about how we sort of people who go online, buy something, purchase, put it in their cart, and then when they walk out, they don't complete the transaction. That a set of customers who do that. So how do you target them, retarget them to go and buy and make that purchase happen? Without the data, without the merchant information, the analysis at the merchant side, the cart information, his sort of a use flow, how he sort of managed to navigate from one screen to another screen in their shopping cart. All this information is relevant and you need to capture. Similarly, at the end, for example, at the processing side, whether do we whether he purchased and it came to the processor, but the processor did not process, or it could fail at the the banking end where he did not have a balance. So there are multiple touch points where it can fail. How do you track this and go back to the same customer and retarget them and ensure that complete the transaction? Because the merchants are looking at to increase their productivity and revenue. The customer is unhappy if you are waiting for an one-time password and it did not reach your mobile and things like that. No, the transaction doesn't get through. The bankers are not happy because they are not getting the money. So it is a collective failure. So how do we target these customers? If you have an ability to mine these data, get these data, aggregate all of them into one place, and then make a business case for retargeting them or advertising them through the next device which he is going to use. He may use a mobile phone, it could be tablet, or the next it could be a PC at home. So we need to track him and then make sure that the next touch device which he uses gets the same cart information which he abandoned and complete the transaction. So that is a kind of an intelligence we need to build in terms of getting the revenue productivity for these kind of channels. So the other information on the customer view, I think the technology has really provided a lot of opportunities beyond the traditional data warehouse, because the industry has moved into payment data lake. Because the payment data lakes gives you a raw data, bringing all of them from different sources in its native form, and then using some of these visualizer tools and then intelligent tools. And some of them are open source. You don't have to buy an expensive tool to do an intelligent mining. And then produce very, very relevant and meaningful content for those customers. So I think the data warehouse and the traditional data sense has gone, and it is now with the advent of big data and with the structured data and unstructured data, taking them along into a payment data lake and ensuring that intelligent data mart for risk-based analysis, intelligent data mart for customer analysis, product marketing. So you are able to use these data for a specific context, target specific customers on a specific period of time. Because you can do this campaign for this product has to run in this particular customer segment. So we are able to do all of that if you have an intelligent data view and intelligent data view. So this consolidating all of these customer touch points and devices he uses, consolidating the way he leaves the data behind, and the ability of the banks and number of institutions to capture these data. All of them leave a data trail. And how do you make these business case will make a lot more usefulness to the banks and financial institutions.
So my last question to the panel, really, and starting with this end, is regulation. How is regulation working in relation to data and data security in the region? Are you finding changes?
With recent, maybe attacks or breaches which is happening, and if we see the pattern, there is some countries suddenly they get some attacks, or some regions you find them they're getting some attacks as well. What the regulator has to do is to get banks to collaborate together. Yes, we compete as banks or financial institutions among us for possibility for customers. But when it comes to threats and international, then it's very important that we have the, all of us as banks collaborate together. And this is the role of the regulators to bring all the banks to talk together, to know from each other, to learn from each other what's happening in the data leakage and the issues what's happening, and then build, a defense. That this defense has to be, a national-wide. Imagine you have many banks with different expertise and the security and the IT and so on. They use different technologies, and all of this, if you bring them together, they will be able really to build a good layer of security and defense for the area or the region. So this is very important to collaborate, not just only leave one bank just to do his own and other bank do his own. We have to learn from each other and help each other, and this is the regulators has to put this in place.
Abdul Salim.
Yep, I think the regulator has a major role to play to make sure that all the actors are compliant with these regulations and with this protection. If we are in an ecosystem and one of the players is not at the right level, so all the others will suffer from that, because all the actors are exchanging data, and we need to make sure that all of them are compliant with the same standard, and make sure that any one of them not compliant need to be disconnected and need to get out of this ecosystem as soon as possible. There is another point that is very important, and Rushdie has mentioned it, is, in fact, in this payment industry, there is a need to keep the data. So it's not a data that would survive few days. We need to keep it because we need to run it on for other purposes, for auditing the platform. Maybe we have disputes, etc. So this protection of data needs to last on time. And this is very particular for this. We need to keep the data available for users. And this compliance and this role of the regulator is a key issue.
Thank you. And finally, Suresh,
Yeah.
with 15 seconds.
15 seconds, yeah. See, actually, it's a multi-pronged strategy we need to do, because there are a lot of industry-wide forums and industry-wide certifications and for protecting the data security standards, which we talked about. Similarly, the regulator in each country has got a defined or a derived set of standards. Then the individual banks have got their own set of security policies and frameworks. And so it has to be a defense in depth in every level, so that you have a mechanism to protect the data, which is very vital. It is very important. See, you can't be sort of protecting and then you don't get the data make meaningful sense to the the business. But it is also equally important to ensure that the privacy and security aspects of these data is covered. So
Thank you very much, Suresh, and thank you to all our panel. Thank you, Suresh.